Sadly, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have officially withdrawn their ECOWAS membership. You are welcome today to the good and the bad about Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger officially withdrawing their membership of ECOWAS. The 31st of January 2024, Sunday, the TRO made the announcement that they are no more sustaining their membership of the ECOWAS, which is a kind of blow to all of us who believe in the ECOWAS, biting our fingers and blaming ourselves for getting it wrong once again. Here we have to look at the brief history of the ECOWAS to see what we have done and what has brought us this far, and probably how we can better this. The ECOWAS was formed on the 25th of May 1975, nearly 50 years ago. This formation was as a result of the Organization of the African Unity at that time. That has continued to be nothing but failure, and so much mounting crisis, a lot of problem in West Africa. That led us in West Africa to decide, led by our founding fathers, that we need to have a better way of addressing our West African problem, given the continental complications and challenges. Of course, this decision came with some resistance from the OAU, then OAU. But we were determined to go ahead with what we want to do. And later, other nations on the continent started also grouping themselves, like the SADC, South African Economic Community, like the IGAD, or Maghreb in the north, or then you have the East African Economic Community, you have Central African Economic Community, and us, the West African Economic Community. Following our formation in 1975, one of the key things that we can put our hands up and be brave to say the ECOWAS has done is the intervention of the Liberian Civil War. It was a serious war, and we were happy and proud to be involved. Rather than looking out to the United Nations or looking up to the African Union, and now the African Union, the OAU, to come in and give us a hand, as has been the case. And sometimes they foot drag and they don't come on time. We decided to take our destiny into our own hands. It was damn bloody. Just as we were about to have some sigh of relief in Liberia, that is the Liberian Civil War, then the Sierra Leonean Civil War also kicked in. We didn't perturb. We went in with our military to get ourselves into the middle of it. The ECOMOG, as it's known, military command, responded equally, and we went into La Sierra Leone, shed blood. We eventually engaged the fighters and brought some sanity and harmony to Sierra Leone. There have been so many of these instances where we have gone and got all the parties involved to sit down and have a jow rather than the war, and we have done very well and proud of our achievement. In fact, of the 5 regional bodies that took shape within the African Union, ECOWAS is the most exemplary and the most successful, while others are sitting on their RAs, not taking things serious, to take their regional body serious and do something. We were determined to get things done. Yes, we succeeded in giving almost every West African or that needed a passport, a common passport, replacing our former passports, which is our national passport, with the ECOWAS passport, that today every West African hold the same green passport, and we are proud with the ECOWAS written on it. We have free movement of persons, goods, and services. Yes, it has its own challenges, which we understand why, and we are working hard to overcome. It is only in ECOWAS that we move across each other's land without visa. Yes, we are aware there are corruptions and bottleneck and dishonesty at the borders, which we are working hard to address. Our citizens are able to live in each member's country freely, except some few occasions where there are some flashbacks. As against our citizens going to either Kenya or South Africa, where they are maimed and killed and harassed and embarrassed and tortured. In West Africa, every West African is at home. We are at a very advanced level in West Africa on our proposal, working very hard, trying to get harmony between the Francophone, safer using countries and the Anglophone that have got several currencies. We are talking about the Dalasi in the Gambia, Leone of the Sierra Leone, we have the Naira of the Nigeria, we have Cedi of Ghana, and then the fifth one, Liberian dollar. We are working hard to make sure that we create an harmony in which our citizens of West Africa, 400 million people, will depend more on our currency rather than on the dollar. But we need a viable, working ECOWAS economy. Yes, the ECOWAS was formed with a clear mission in mind that a lot of people, for some reason, are tending to get wrong. ECOWAS has 3 mandates. And that is the political mandate, economic mandate, and technological mandate to provide leadership, emancipation of the member states and the citizens of the ECOWAS. And therefore, it is designed and intended to have West Africans taking their destiny into their hands. And we are really determined to get this through. Yes, we have serious challenges and difficulties because the citizens of West Africa are actually sitting back, not understanding that ECOWAS really belongs to them and it's not the ECOWAS of leaders. The continual failure of the ECOWAS to meet its role in political, economic, and technological emancipation to the people of West Africa is responsible for the insecurity in the region. We are having serious problems within our regional body. The landlocked Sahel states were suffering the heavier brunt of the economic hardship, partly due to the changes in the global dynamics and partly due to the failure of the ECOWAS as an active player in the business of West Africans. The higher level of awareness and the increasing level of global competition putting pressure on the nationals of the 15 states of the ECOWAS to resort to desperate measure in addressing their sense of insecurity. This has led to mass migration, terrorism, social unrest, communal food, and so on are now the norms in West Africa. All the happenings above had the ECOWAS limiting herself to Abuja after the nationals who could not bear the pangs anymore had their military to take over. Poverty is now leading to desperation, electoral irregularities. If democracy is about election based on honesty and informed electoral decisions rather than ignorance, then poverty caused by economic and technological deficit of West Africa is making credible election impossible. Every single election in all ECOWAS member nations is marred with irregularities, leaving the population in doubt of a winner, only for the same shenanigan to repeat itself again. The outcome of the elections are based on desperation to assume the position of political leadership on falsehood meant for delivering basically nothing. The only purpose of the group that fills up every institution of the state with its cronies to share the little revenue of the state among themselves, with everyone else condemned to look on for committing the sins of not being part of the gangsters. electoral promises started becoming meaningless and the election shambolic. As each election takes place, this same ritual is repeated again, where everyone feels frustrated because election is becoming about looters, contractors, fake contractors that take over the business of government only for themselves. It is now the norm in all West African member states or ECOWAS member states for the country to be totally broke, while a few whose political party had declared itself as the winner of an election to live in affluence, an act that guess was during electioneering campaign. The culture has engulfed every one of the ECOWAS member nations, imply powerful owners of business are in bed with dishonest politicians to avoid paying tax. The powerful multinational corporations, mostly owned by Europeans and American nationals, also enjoying avoidance of tax payments, making the state totally broke. And when the state has nothing or unable to get tax revenue, then budget become a farce, nothing in it, because the revenue or the expected income don't come in, and then the state's responsibility is shoved aside and the masses suffer. Advance in technological input in the course of production imply the replacement of labor in tasks traditionally done by a human being. Advancement in technological input also require a high level of know-how to relate with the production process. The quality of education here, a state is able to make freely available to the majority of the nationals till the age of 18, is very critical to a higher level of skills in this advanced technological age. Since West African countries are all under the yoke of foreign debt, whose interests are seriously unbearable and hardly to be able to meet the budget needs internally through taxation, majority of West Africans' population are left out with no skill for gainful employment. Every one of the ECOWAS member countries' politicians, therefore, resort out of desperation to selling their natural resources in their crude form at a giveaway price, just to import finished goods, and mostly only enough to take care of the few. This export of rare mineral resources from West Africa to the industrial complex of the industrialized nation at cutthroat price turn West African nations into creators of mass employment to foreign nations on their own land, while their population languish in abject poverty due to mass unemployment. The increasing debt burden and deficit in favor of costly import at the expense of mass unemployment means national crisis. The way West African is governed make everything seems to be about the so-called leaders and their cronies. ECOWAS has become about the heads of states or heads of the member countries. Everything of the ECOWAS is about the head of states and nothing about the individuals that constitute the membership of the states at the level of the ECOWAS. Everything, again, is limited within each state so that the powerful continue to take advantage of the masses who are vulnerable due to their individual nature, while the ECOWAS, they live in a total isolated distance. It is true that in any nation, and a democratic nation for that matter, the role of the head of state and government is a very critical one. There's no doubt about that. As the vacuum at that level could lead to serious anarchy. It is also true that unity, peace, security, stability, and prosperity in any of the ECOWAS member states is best sustainable with a stable leadership in the member states. The ECOWAS therefore limiting her definition of leadership in each of her member states in the person of the head of state stroke government, whose legitimacy require election on the basis of universal order suffrage, make sense when we think about not creating a vacuum, and at any point in time there should be a leader, because when the people are divided, anarchy and chaos is the only thing that result. So keeping the head of state in place of the member states by ECOWAS is very critical, as that allow the security forces and the institutions to look up to one individual as their head of state and therefore a leader, rather than looking at divided people that each is fighting for mostly their selfish end. The ECOWAS parliament is not democratic enough to meet the need and aspiration of the ECOWAS electorate, as ECOWAS is failing to recognize members of parliament at the level of ECOWAS to be just as good in their role of lawmaking as the heads of the member states serve as executive arm of the ECOWAS, in addition supporting the commission to do her job. So the ECOWAS turning blind eye to her regional legislative organ as leaders of the ECOWAS as well, so that leadership at the level of ECOWAS are not only limited to the heads of states who constitute the membership of the Assembly of the Union, but the directly elected members of the ECOWAS Parliament, in line with the principles of universal adult suffrage, to make ECOWAS legislative law workable, and the legislators to play their role of the ECOWAS democracy and therefore its legitimacy. The ECOWAS failing to fill the regional parliament with individuals whose mandate to the ECOWAS parliament is supposed to be by direct representations, like that of the heads of state and government and parliament of member nations, leave the big gap for exploitation. It makes the ECOWAS itself totally weak and vulnerable. Since in any democratic setting, parliament and members of the house of that parliament, in other words the legislative arm, than just the heads of states stroke government constitute leadership, the ECOWAS sense of democratic leadership is limited to just the head of states. And this is a farce. In a democratic setting, parliament than the head of states, the will, plight, and aspiration of the masses. Power in a genuine democratic setting is in the parliament as representative of the people, while in a dictatorship, power is in the head of states stroke government. A very good example here is the case of Donald Trump in the United States of America. Very recently during the election, Donald Trump's supporters attacking the U.S. Congress than the presidency says a lot. They are supposed to go to the presidency if power is only in the head of it as the leader. No. Rioters, full armed, attack the Congress. They went there, destroy and try to get access into the Congress, the legislative, because that is where the power is. The power in a democratic setting is actually not at the executive level, the presidency or the head of government. The power, because the head of government need the approval and the mandate and the support, investigation, the supervision by members of the Congress. And what sometimes stand the power of the legislative body. A member of a legislative body is not only a representative of his constituency, which, when you look at it, makes sense. Yes, he has a power of a judge on his seat. At a point in time, he's a lawyer interrogating issues or defending issues and making his own case. And some other time, he is questioning others, trying to make sure when you have the committee, to make sure that everybody is doing what they are supposed to do. At best, the head of states or government has one huge constituency, while several members of parliament provide leadership to specific constituencies best reflecting the will of the masses of the people. Several coups attempt ravage most of West African countries as the elected leaders of the respective ECOWAS member states struggle with their domestic challenges, making them seem incapable and insensitive to the plight of their population due to global pressure, while the ECOWAS seeming to be turning a blind eye. The military takeover that took place in the 4 ECOWAS member states of Burkina Faso, Guinea-Conakry, Mali, and Niger were all instigated by this mounting army of youth unemployment, high cost of living in the ordinary household and family, increasing debt burden, ethno-tribal tension, religious tensions tagged as Islamic terrorists by Europeans who know West Africans or claim to know West African better than West Africans themselves. National tension, social insecurity, economic instability, and political apathy. In the face of the above, the heads of states of the failing ECOWAS member states resorted to inviting foreign forces to help deal with the mounting insecurity, in total disregard to how the oppressed feel about foreign forces on their land. In fact, most West Africans naturally believe they are suffering poverty, that the Europeans and to some extent Americans are living their affluence because West Africans are poor. So West African, which is natural, the poor man always believes the rich man live his affluent life at the expense of the poor one. Yes, it's just natural. Anywhere you see a poor man and a rich man, this is how the poor see the rich. And the Europeans are rich. As nations, as individuals, this reflects well on them. And if moreover, when you look at the Europe in general, there is barely nothing. And therefore, there is that either force or legitimate conduct. But it makes sense for anyone to believe that is the case, given that the people of West Africa are now even working hard and struggling and dying just to migrate into Europe to have a chance. So everyone from any part of Europe in West Africa is seen as an enemy. And worse still, people believe that the